Please welcome Michael Nyenhuis.
Thank you, Peter, and I think I want the job you just described. Great to be here this morning with you. I really appreciate the invitation, Paul, to come. Had a lovely time with a group of you last night. I really appreciate the ministry of the New Canaan Society. We need a place to be open and vulnerable, and this is the place, I've learned. So I want to thank Paul for his testimony this morning. I know Paul's work in Haiti and how important it is, and I just feel compelled actually to stop for a moment and say a prayer for Paul's children in Haiti so that we don't lose them from our minds. Let's say a prayer. Heavenly Father, we know you are the great healer and protector, and we know too that you know each one of Paul's children in Haiti, and you know where they are this morning. You know the hardships that they face, the threats that they're under, but also the opportunities they have. And we just ask that you would today do something special in their lives. Send someone to them, open a door, keep them safe, provide them the food that they need, give them the opportunity. And above that, Lord, we just ask for Paul's doors to reopen, to minister again to these kids. Thank you for the passion he has for that. And we just want to remember these children today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I want to start by, and thank you, by the way, for the clock. That's very helpful. I want to start today by telling you about the day that I was raised from the dead. I want to finish by telling you a story that is proof to me that our loving, living, active God cares intimately for our deepest needs. And in the middle, I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am and how I came to Fairfield County 3 years ago and why it's a privilege to lead AmeriCares. So let me tell you first about being raised from the dead. I mean that figuratively, but almost literally. 10 years ago, I received the phone call that every parent dreads. My son, who was 18, had been in a car accident on his way back to the University of Georgia, where he was in school. And didn't know it at the time. I was just told to come to the hospital, which was 4 hours away, and they wouldn't give me any information. So through some connections, we were able to get somebody with a small plane who flew us up to this small hospital where I saw my son's lifeless body for the last time. I have heard it said that losing a child is the most stressful, maybe traumatic thing someone could go through, and as I told the group last night, I wouldn't argue with that based on my own journey, but I do know that many of the traumas that you all have gone through are equal in weight in your own context. So I don't stand here saying my journey is any more complicated than anybody else's, but it's a journey that God rescued me from. So I want to describe that a little bit. So I had a really difficult time in the first months after my son died. Again, not really sure I was going to make it myself. I got to a point where I was ready to throw God out the window along with everything else because how could he do this to my lovely, beautiful son? And I got to the point where I just knew that I needed some time alone to throw things at God and to swear and cuss and blame and everything. And I needed to do that away from my wife and my daughter. So I decided to go take a 4-day trip in the wilderness. This sounded biblical. It sounded like something Jesus would do. Go into the wilderness for 4 days and see what God would say to me. We lived on St. Simon's Island in Georgia at the time. This lovely little coastal island. A couple islands south of us is an island called Cumberland Island, which is a national seashore. It's a spectacular place if you ever want to go really get away. I decided to take my kayak and a tent and go for 4 days, paddling around the island and camping on the island all by myself. I figured it would give me the freedom to do what I needed to do and maybe to hear from God. I brought a tape recorder and a notebook in case God told me something important. So I had, it was in February. It's a little dicey time to do this down there because the weather can be changing rapidly. It's a little dangerous to be in a kayak in some of those spots through the Sound on the north end of Cumberland and all the way through the ocean for a day and a half. But I decided I would do it anyway. And as I did that, the first 3 days of my trip were beautiful, weather-wise. Spectacular, 70-degree, calm, perfect time for kayaking, perfect time to be thinking without risk around me about what God was saying to me. He told me a lot of things there, the most important of which was this. I heard this very clearly. He said, Michael, I'm not your enemy in this. I didn't do this. I'm as brokenhearted as you are about this loss. This was not my plan for your son. But I'm a redemptive God. And I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to make something from this. And you can either be with me on that journey or not. I'm not your enemy. I'm your ally in your grief. And I became to believe that over 3 beautiful days of paddling and listening to God and being on this island. On the third night, my last night, I came in off the ocean side onto the beach and carried my stuff up over the dune and camped on the backside of the dune. And about that time, the weather was coming in. A big storm was coming in. And so I got my camp all set up. I decided to walk back over as it was getting dark over the dune just to see what the ocean looked like with this storm approaching. And it was wild. The waves were huge and crashing, and you could see the dark clouds in the distance. And I just had this sense of God saying to me, too, I've given you 3 peaceful days to learn lessons from me. But I want you to know that your journey isn't over. The dark clouds are still there. You're going to have a lot to go through still, but I want you to know I'm with you in that. And sure enough, the storm started rolling. And I walked out onto the beach, and just a big, wide open, undeveloped beach, and I just kind of looked to my right, and down the right I saw this black, what looked like a big black stick laying on the water, so I just, for no reason, sort of walked that way. And as I got closer, the stick moved, and I realized it was a snake. It's a long black snake about this, right at the edge of the surf. And I walk up to it, like, I've been on these beaches a lot of times, and I've never seen a snake in the surf before. So I walked up to it, and as I got closer, it lifted its head and looked at me. And I sort of backed up a little bit. A wave came in, took it away. It slithered back up, came up close to me, raised up its head again and looked at me. Wave came in second time, pulled it back up. A third time it came up and looked at me. I knew at that moment I was looking at the devil himself. And I cussed that thing out. I swore that thing down. I said, you have nothing on me. You get away from my family. You get away from me. You're not going to win this. I was wearing sandals. I said, if I was wearing boots, I would crush your head with my heel. And I walked away victorious at that moment. Felt like I was raised from the dead. I knew at that moment that, yes, this was going to be a long journey, that it wasn't instant healing on this trip, but that God was with me every step of the way, and that there was no way that Satan was going to take me or take my family in the midst of this. I talked to a friend later who worked for the Department of Natural Resources, and I said, what was this thing that I saw? And he talked to some friends of his who know marine animals, and they said, we don't have any marine snakes, so I don't know what that is. And I said, well, I do know what it is. God's been good to me through this journey. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am, where I come from, how I got to Fairfield County. I grew up in Minnesota, went to school in Wisconsin. As you heard, my home village, I like to say, is in Wisconsin, Sheboygan, Wisconsin. If anybody knows Sheboygan, it's a little bit north of Milwaukee on the lake. If you like bratwurst, this is the place to go in the summer for bratwurst days. That's where all my family comes from, out of Dutch communities in Sheboygan. My parents moved early to Minnesota. That's where I grew up. went back to Wisconsin for school. Spent 10 years, my first 10 years of my career as a journalist, writing about lots of different things. Ended up at a newspaper in Florida called the Florida Times-Union, and did a lot of international reporting from there, which really connected me to international things in a new way. One of those trips, I was in Central America in Honduras doing a story about the role of North Americans working in poor countries around the world. And I'd grown up in a church, heard a lot of missionaries over the time, and thought that was wonderful that people always went around the world to do things, but I also wondered, aren't there like smart people in those communities who can do things for themselves? And here I was in Honduras, and I met this nurse named Gloria, who was a local woman from the community, who became a nurse, trained in community health, came back to help her people in this small squatter community live a better life. And I looked at Gloria and I said, she's the answer to these problems in these communities, a local woman who has a vision to making her community better, and all we should really do is help her. How do we help her? And I decided at that moment that I wanted to commit my life to helping people like that. Lots of things I loved about being a journalist, one of them that I didn't, was that journalists are observers, not doers. You observe and write about people doing things. I decided I wanted to do something. I wanted to help people like Gloria do their work. That connected me to the people at MAP International, which is a Christian global health agency that actually had done training work for Gloria and other nurses in community health practice, and fell in love with their mission, joined them running their communications side, and in 5 years ended up being their CEO, which I did for about 13 years. It was a great organization, great time of work, traveled all around the world, every context you can imagine, met incredible people, saw incredible heartbreak, saw incredible victory as well. My son Jacob died during that time that I was the CEO there. It was paralyzing for quite some time. And I probably stayed there a little longer than I should have, just because I couldn't move and didn't know what to do. But the place was good and gracious to me. And about 3 years ago, I kind of felt like it was time to do something new, to try a new part of our life. And it was about the time that Kurt Welling here had decided he was going to move on from AmeriCares, and I got a call from a headhunter telling me about this job in Connecticut. My first response was, no thank you, it's in Connecticut. Nothing against Connecticut, but I'd never lived up here. I lived on a sunny little island in Georgia, and didn't really feel any need to leave that particular place, just was looking for something new to do. But I came up and I met the people at AmeriCares and fell in love with the mission, fell in love with the vision they had to grow the organization even further. My wife and I came up at one point. They took us to dinner in New Canaan at Roger Sherman Inn on a night where it was snowing lightly and quietly, and I thought I was in a Norman Rockwell painting, and we said, we think we can do this. And boy, were we fooled, because this was 3 years ago almost. We moved at the end of January. We left our home in Georgia. It was 70 degrees. We drove north. By the time we got to Richmond, Virginia, we were in a blizzard. By the time we got to Stamford, it was 1 degree, and the wind was howling, and my wife was going, what did we just do? Just to tell you about the rest of my family, my wife, Sandy, is a school teacher and tutor by trade, and is, as I told the guys last night, the most resilient person I know. Been through much trauma in her childhood, now been through the death of her only son, and yet stands as a victorious woman who carried me through much of that difficult time. We have a lovely daughter, whose name is Raleigh, who graduated from the University of Georgia with a degree in ecology. She works back on the coast of Georgia as a naturalist, taking care of sea turtles and shorebirds and the beach and all kinds of lovely things on Sea Island. Some of you may know Sea Island. And she lives on St. Simon's Island where she grew up, and gives us a great opportunity to go back there. It's a real privilege to be here. We do love living here. We do love AmeriCares. I don't know how many of you are aware of our work and of our mission around the world. One thing I wanted to add to it, Paul, is we are local as well as global. So if you're not exactly thrilled with the millennial ministry, you can, but you really want to connect locally, you can do that with us too. We run 4 charitable clinics here in Fairfield County in Stamford, Norwalk, Danbury, and Bridgeport. They serve the uninsured patients in our community. These are typically the working poor, people who are trying to make economic progress for themselves and their families, and health is their biggest obstacle, because if they're not healthy, they're not working. If they're not working, they're not making progress. Our clinics are designed to keep them healthy so that they have a shot at a better opportunity in life. We work across the country doing work that supports a network of about 1,000 similar clinics that are run by others that provide a similar service in communities in all 50 states. And we provide them medicines and medical supplies that they can't have access to. We help them develop programs to do a better job taking care of diabetic patients and hypertensive patients and mental health patients, and other kinds of work to help strengthen this safety net of the health services that are out there for people that fall all the way through the cracks. So we're good at here in Jerusalem. We work in Judea, across the country, and around the world. So we are in Haiti again, responding to the Hurricane Matthew there. Terrible destruction again. We were in Nepal and in the Ebola crisis, and wherever you find a major crisis, you will find us. But actually, disaster work is only about 20-25% of our work. Most of our work is ongoing health programs designed to strengthen people's opportunities around the world. We believe these things. One, that health is the gateway to all other development. With good health, kids can be in school and they can learn and create new opportunities. With good health, their parents can be at work, can provide for their families. And with good health, neighbors can work together to build and rebuild their communities. So we're focused on health. We believe the best way to improve health outcomes for people in those communities is to invest in their local health centers, these clinics, hospitals, local health centers that provide the backbone of the health service. So that's what we do. We invest in those local health centers at times of disaster, in recovery periods, and just in an ongoing way. We touch 90 countries every year. We are rated extremely high by all the charity watchdogs. We have a really good and important work that we do, anchored right here from our offices in Stamford and from offices around the globe. I don't know how many of you have attended our Airlift Benefit. If you have, oh, come on. Okay, so next year, you have to attend our Airlift Benefit. This is our biggest, it's a fundraiser, so you have to come with a wallet, and we hope that you'll support the work. But it's worth coming, because it's like an event, unlike an event you've seen anywhere. We hold it at the Westchester Airport, and in the J.P. Morgan Chase hangar, which they give to us. We dress it up for an amazing gala event. This year we had 900 people in the room, a record. We raised $2.9 million from that event. It's critically important to our work. You hear see great videos and hear great testimonies of our work around the world. There's dancing and music and international flair, and it's really worth coming to. And about 2/3 of the way through the evening, about 100 people who've signed up in advance change their clothes, get in jeans and T-shirts, walk out onto the tarmac, get on a chartered jet. We fly them down to Central America to go see some of our work in about a 24-hour period and then get them home again. So it's an amazing thing, and you should come because it's worth it, and we're worth supporting. This year, in fact, I could send you a link, which you could post somewhere, Paul, a video of this last year's event. It's a short video, a couple of minutes, that sort of shows the whole thing, and it will entice you to come. I sent that link to my daughter. She came up to the benefit last year. She didn't come this year. I sent that link to my daughter. She watched the video, and she wrote back, Papa, which she calls me. Papa, I was in tears when I saw you in that video. I am so proud to be your daughter. So I don't know about you. There are a lot of things we want to hear from our children. Definitely, and we heard some of this last night, we want to hear that they love us. But sort of another step is, and my daughter and I have had that relationship forever, that we say that regularly. But to have an adult daughter say to you that I'm proud of you is sort of a special thing. Right? Teenagers won't say that. But maybe once they get through the teenage stage and they start to look back and recognize you actually are doing something meaningful, you hear that, I'm proud of you. For me, this is like a really important thing. It's always been one of my dreams to hear that from my children, that I'm proud of you. I heard it from my daughter, which was awesome. In one sense, I never got to hear that from my son. He died when he was 18, before they make that transition. But I want to tell you about a good and gracious God that let me hear that from my son anyway. One of the things I did to survive my grief process was I wrote letters to my son. Starting the night of the memorial service, 1 week after he died, I wrote for about 100 straight days. I wrote a letter to him every night. Then I took a break from that, didn't feel like I needed it, and I needed it again. I did about another 100 days. I've got 200 letters that I've written to my son. They were letters of how I was feeling and what was going on and how I was missing him, and remembrances of things we had done. Part of my motivation was to write down everything I could remember about times we had spent together. And but I would also tell him things that were going on. And at one point, I was in Uganda, and I was visiting in the north of Uganda, this place where this is when I was at MAP, where we had built 7 local clinics, and they were dedicating one of them. And this is an area that had been taken over by the Lord's Resistance Army, which was this terrible rebel group, the child soldiers and all of that. And they had been moved out, and people were migrating back to their traditional homes, and we built these health clinics for them. And I came to dedicate one of them because I was there. I didn't know they were going to do this, but they put my name on a plaque. So there's a clinic in northern Uganda that has my name on it, which is very nice and special. That night I was writing a letter to my son. I was telling him what was going on that day. I was telling him how proud I was of my staff and all the great work that they were doing. And I said to him, I wonder if you're proud of me for the work that I do. I never heard that from you. Not surprising, you're a teenager, but this is one of the monumental losses I've suffered, is I'll never get to hear my son say, Dad, I'm proud of you. I was a journalist, so I always put a little headline on these letters. The letter was, Are you proud of me? ? I wrote the letter. 2 weeks later, I'm back home. We get a call from a friend of my son's, a young woman who was never a girlfriend, but always a very close friend, and they could talk about everything. And she'd been missing Jacob tremendously. And she called and said, I have to come over and talk to you. I have to come over and talk to you. She came over. She had had a dream the night before with Jacob in it. And it was really real. She'd been just crying out because she wanted to talk to him. And in this dream, she's in this particular place, and Jacob shows up. And she said, I hugged him. I could feel him. I could smell him. I knew it was him. You know, this was not just a dream. She said, I was with Jacob. And we sat down together, and I just talked to him about everything. I just told him everything. And she said, I felt so much better. And when I was done, he stood up and said he had to leave. And then he said to me, before I go, I need you to do something for me. I need you to tell Bobby, that was his best friend, this. I need you to tell Raleigh, that's his sister, my daughter, this. I need you to tell my mom this. And all of those messages were like spot on for something they were going through at the moment. I mean, incredibly spot on. And then she says this, "Tell my dad I'm proud of him." Now, this friend knew nothing about the fact I wrote letters. She knew nothing about this feeling I had. I don't even know that she knew I was in Uganda. If it was just a dream, Jacob could have said to her anything. "Tell my dad I'm okay. Tell my dad he's going to be okay. Tell my dad everything's fine." But he said the words, "Tell my dad I'm proud of him." An exact answer to the question I wrote, "Are you proud of me?" Now, a non-believing person could dismiss that as coincidence if they want to. But if they do that, they're missing the reality of a real, living, active, loving God who cares deeply for our most intimate needs. And what I learned from that is the lesson God's been teaching me through this whole journey, which is He is real, He's present, that the veil between here and heaven, between the whole of God's creation, is very thin, that my son is alive, that I will in fact see him again, that everything I once believed, I now know for certain to be true. That God is great, He is careful with us, He does things in His own time, but we can have confidence that those things will play out in the way that are for our best purposes. I miss my son tremendously. I would give up all of those experiences to have had him home for Thanksgiving. I don't get to have that anymore. But I know that He has something so much greater, and a time is coming when I will be reunited with Him in a way that will be more powerful than I can imagine. So that's my story. Thank you. Mm-hmm.